Suddenly, I was in this tunnel. I looked up and I saw this light.
I think a lot of what happened in my afterlife was something that I learned when I was still on the earth. I was born and raised a Catholic, and I was always taught that there was hell and purgatory and heaven, and that maybe Mother Teresa went straight to heaven. But the rest of us, we sin, we make mistakes, we're mean, whatever. And so generally, I was taught that you would go to purgatory when you died, and then you'd spend some time there. Everybody had different ideas of what it would be like, kind of like hell, but you get out, But I think because I believed that my whole life, that when I unexpectedly died, I was in a coma, I was very ill, but I had expected to come out of the coma and live. So to find myself in this completely weird situation, and then have the experience, this negative experience, to go to heaven and then come back and take, 10, 15 years to try and figure out, what the hell happened, basically. I was taking care of my best friend. We had been engaged for 7 years, and then he had to move to the East Coast. I was on the West Coast. We split up, but we stayed friends. He called out of the blue and said that he needed 2 caregivers, and he had leukemia, and he was only 53, and he needed me to come to Seattle. So I packed up and went to Seattle, and we thought it would only be about a 3-month thing, but it was about 9 months. And at the end of that, he died. And so I had gotten very run down. I picked up a flu that went into pneumonia, and then it went into lung failure. So the only way to save me was to put me in this coma. They gave me 38% chance of making it. And then the doctor said, you won't remember a thing. I'm giving you amnesia medication. So, but I did. I woke up in this dark, quiet place. Later on, I learned that it was called the void, but it started to morph into a very scary scene with demons, and it was like segments of, I don't know, there was a bombed out city in one of them. There was an incident where a demon wanted me to cut down an entire forest of blackberry bushes using little tiny paper cutting scissors. He promised he'd get me out if that happened, but it was him just being mean. He had no intention of really helping me. Every time I would buck up to these demons or the situations and say, no, I'm not going to do this. There was a scene in a terrible hospital situation. They wanted me to do something that I thought was disgusting. It had to do with dead people. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. Well, every time I said no, and that's where the MISFIT and hell thing comes in, they'd send me into another situation, and it was usually worse. So it got worse and worse and worse. I never felt dead. I just felt confused, kind of like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I wasn't in Kansas anymore, but I didn't know where I was. And because the situation was always so critical and I was running for my life, I felt like I never had time to just sit down and be philosophical about it and kind of figure out, now what's going on? I didn't have the luxury of doing it. I just kept running. They look like Bigfoot, like 9 feet tall and hulking. And the other one was a woman. You couldn't really tell by the outlines and the sexual organs or anything like that. But the one was actually was 3. There was 2 men, and the last one was a woman. So you just knew that's what it was, because there couldn't be anything else. When you get on the other side, there is no time. You go over there, and you're just there. It's an eternal now. The sun doesn't come up and go down. You don't have a watch. So I was in the coma for 3 weeks. At one point, they told my family, she's not going to make it. Go say your goodbyes. When I got back and I was, stuck in that bed on a ventilator, I had nothing to do but think. When I tried to recall everything that happened and the length of time it would have taken especially being on that road, walking. I thought about 2 years. It seemed that it was segments. The lights would come up and I'd be in the situations, the lights would go down and I would wait, and then the lights would come up and it would be something different. A lot of times, instead of coming into a different situation, I was on a road. It was like a path, but as far as you could see, it was just flat, except for the horizon around the edges. It was glowing red, like a fire, far away fire. And sometimes there'd be a pile of rocks, or there would be stones or something, but I just walked. And it only went 2 directions. And when I first got on it, I just took a right and went that way, with traffic. But there was never anybody else walking on it. That's the only time I felt relatively safe, because things couldn't creep up on me. You know what I mean? Because I was getting real goosey in some of these situations where things were coming up out of the rocks, or they were, coming out of the fog or something. And so it was almost a respite. I did see some people, a relative that I knew actually, that is alive on the road, and I had an interaction with her. She was making a big feast. She was a wonderful cook here on the planet, and she had this huge feast spread out, and I felt like I had been in that place for a very long time, and not knowing I was dead, thinking I was still alive. I was tired, I was hungry, I was thirsty, I was aching, and I just smelled this food, and I said her name. I said, could you just give me a little tiny plate of something and a glass of water? I am just so hungry. And she just looked at me and like she didn't even know me, and said, oh, well, this is for the important people. And she wouldn't give me anything. So I got back on the road. I'd go tromping off again. Then I did have the bad luck of running into the town of zombies or whatever was happening there, but they were converging on the road and they wouldn't let me through. And so I was attacked by them. And finally that's when the demon lady came along and said, you're with us. And there was a bunch of other ladies like myself who didn't feel very much like ladies at the time. We were pretty beat up and abused. So that kind of catches you up on that. God never came to mind when I was there. And I've thought about that a lot, because I'm a person who prays a lot, or talks to God a lot, or to the souls on the other side. And I thought about why that didn't happen. I think that was part of the plan. I believe I planned this entire event to learn things and to bring what I learned back to help other people. I think if I'd called on God right away and had gotten out, then that would have defeated my plan. Then I would have probably had to go back and do it again, which is something I wouldn't suggest. It just was the way it was supposed to be. When I was in this terrible realm, all I could think about was staying alive, which is kind of silly, but I didn't know I was dead. It was constant trauma. So when I got to this final scene, and I didn't know it was going to be the final scene, and I was sitting with these women, and I was always being tempted. They said, just despair, just give up. You're never getting out of here. Just give up. And something inside of me said, no, that's wrong. I don't belong here, and I will get out. I will figure out a way. I've just got to keep going. So when I was sitting there and we finally had a chance to just sit and not worry about something coming out of the dark at me, even though we were going to be in a bad situation in a very short period of time. I asked the demon lady, I said, I've been here a long time, and I don't know why it feels particularly heavy or uncomfortable today in wherever we are, but is there a reason? And she says, well, it's Christmas on earth. That's always the worst day in hell. And that was the first time I actually discovered where I was and the implications that I was dead and that I was in a very bad place. And something in me was still fighting. And I thought, you know what? I'm not going to take this lying down either. I'm going to rebel. I'm going to tick her off. I'm going to keep my spirits up. And I started singing a Christmas carol, which was Away in a Manger. And as I started singing it, she turned around and she was furious. I got her, and she said, shut up. But the other ladies started singing with me, and we kept going no matter what she said. And when we got to the part where it says, and the little Lord, and I was going to say the name of Jesus, she shrieked and jumped at me, and I closed my eyes, and like usual, it got dark. And then the light came up. But this time, when the light came up, it wasn't in hell. It was in this incredible love. And I was swimming in this warm light, sparkly, and just infused with love and bliss and joy. And it was so intense that nothing that had happened before, I just couldn't remember it. I didn't even want to remember it. So that's how the transition took place. And when I did finally kind of settle down a little bit, and I saw my friend who had died the month before, and all I could think about, still not believing I was dead, I just said, oh my goodness, he doesn't know he's dead. And when he was laughing at me, and I thought, how did he hear me? I didn't say anything out loud. And then I thought, it dawned on me. I thought, well, if he's dead, I must be dead. And I'm in heaven with my best friend. And it doesn't get any better than this. According to my experience, and from what I've learned from many other people in the past 23 years that I have been studying this phenomenon, it seems pretty clear to me that God is all loving and all forgiving, and he never condemns anybody. So how did I get there? I believed I would go there. I was taught I would go there. I manifested that. I expected to go there. It had nothing to do with God's punishment at all. So to avoid hell, quit believing in it. It's not true. I don't care what religion, culture, parent tells you that if you're a bad person, God's going to send you to hell. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So I had to come to the conclusion that the correct one, that God is all loving and forgiving. I am on this earth to learn things. I believe that we all start in heaven as part of God. We always remain part of God because our souls are God. And we plan what we want to learn. We come to earth with our soulmates and our friends, and we do the best we can. And then when we die, we are given a life review. This is not done as a judgment. It's only to explain and to show what we did with our lives. And we get to see every second of our lives. And then you get to feel what it was like to interact with you. So if you were kind to somebody, you will feel the love and the kindness that they felt. And that will feel really good. And then if you maybe were a little curt with somebody, or you were mean to somebody, or you hurt somebody, you will feel their pain. and that ripple effect of that. Maybe they go home and now they're barking at their kids because you cut them off in traffic. So we get to see the consequences of our actions, not as a judgment, just so we understand. And so nobody's going to send you to hell unless it's you.